I've sold Gabriel for a better alternative and I've made another big free transfer. Some people might think it's controversial, but I will justify it. Building from the back, of course I'm starting Pickford against Wolves at home over Turner against United away. I have considered selling Pickford, but I purposely bought him for the first block of 8 fixtures. Yeah, Everton haven't kept 2 clean sheets in the first 2, but they've got Wolves at home and Sheffield United away next. The thing is, it wouldn't make sense because we already knew Everton's defence wasn't the best anyway. It's just that they've got decent clean sheet odds, and that's why I'm going to keep him for the first 8 fixtures. If he had a luxury free transfer to replace Pickford, it would be Sanchez from Chelsea. I think he's the best 4.5 mil goalkeeper, and I'm predicting him to score the most points per million up until game week 8. Moving on to the defence, I've got Stupinian against West Ham, and he's got the home advantage. The original plan was to buy him for the first few game weeks where he had decent fixtures, then sell him ahead of game week 4 when he faces Newcastle at home. He's also got United away in game week 5. But we've got to be flexible in FPL because there are a lot of changes and we've got to adapt to them as time goes on. Obviously we knew he was an attacking defender, but we didn't know he was going to be this attacking. So I'm going to keep him till at least game week 6 when he faces Bournemouth at home. Then he's got a difficult block of fixtures again against Villa away, Liverpool at home and City away. Next up, I did have Gabriel in my team, but now he's been replaced. It's really annoying because I missed elite team news a few minutes before that game week 1 deadline, and there's been an 11-point swing between him and Saliba, and I had a look at it. I'm currently ranked 1 million in the world, and I would be 300k plus the free transfer that I've used this game week on him as well. I'll be honest, it's bothered me at points. What I've used to get over it is that I had no control over the situation. It's not like I've made a mistake. I've just got to accept it as an unfortunate outcome. Anyway, after him being benched in game week 1, I made the decision to give him one more chance to see if he'd get benched again, and he did. Obviously Timber got injured and we thought he would play. That didn't happen. Now we know that Tomiyasu's got a suspension. We might think he could play again, and there is an even better chance of it, but I'm not rolling the dice because we really don't need to. It's going to be a long-term problem by the looks of it, so I either sell him now or I sell him next game week, or it happens again next game week and I have to sell him in a couple of game weeks. I'm not rolling the dice on that when I've got 2 free transfers. It was difficult to find a decent replacement because I've already got my 2 favourite defenders, which are Stupinian and Chilwell, and there's only 2 teams that have got higher clean sheet odds than Arsenal this game week. That's Chelsea against Luton at home and City against Sheffield United away. If we look at the defensive fixture difficulty ratings for Chelsea and City in the next 6, they rank very high. Whilst Chelsea are above City in terms of their easy fixtures, City have a much better defence, and that's reflected through the clean sheet odds. Feel free to take screenshots of these graphics, by the way. They will be really useful when you're making your transfer decisions. Also, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any more content like this. Anyway, there wasn't an attacking defender that caught my eye, so I wanted to get a defensive defender that had the highest ceiling, which is obviously the clean sheet points in this case, and I wanted to get a City defender that had the highest expected minutes, and that's Ruben Diaz. Obviously there's a risk of Pep Roulette, but out of all the defenders, he's the most immune to it. My last defender is Chilwell against Luton at home. He's absolutely flying up that left side. If you don't already own him in your team, I'd get him in there. I know you've missed a couple of price rises. To be honest, I'd probably still buy him for like 7 or 8 million. He's great value for money. Like I mentioned earlier, Chelsea's defensive fixtures up until game week 8 are extremely favourable. And that's the same for the attacking fixtures as well, which does matter to him because he is an attacking fullback. My outfield players on the bench have the home advantage, but they've got difficult fixtures. Bayer against Villa, then Asula and Baldock have to face Man City. Baldock was recently sidelined, and I kind of hope that he's sidelined for this match. Obviously, playing against Man City, he could get minus points. It could be a cricket score. I'd rather 0 points come in and not risk getting minus points. I don't fancy my other bench defender to keep a clean sheet against Villa either, but I have sold Gabriel, so there is lower risk of him stepping into my defence. In midfield, I did have Salah, but I've sold him. So the plan was to get him ahead of game week 1 where I don't use any free transfers, captain him in game week 2, then sell him ahead of game week 3, and I've stuck to the plan. He got an assist in game week 1, and he scored in game week 2, and I can tell you it was a success because all the sacrifices blanked. One of them was Rashford, he blanked in game week 1 and game week 2. Another one was Trent, he blanked in game week 1 and game week 2. And of course, Haaland captaincy in game week 2, where he blanked as well. You'll be surprised by his replacement. It is Rashford, but I'll explain why. There are a few reasons. One of them is that when I wanted to replace Gabriel, Ruben Diaz was my favourite option, but he had no money in the bank and he's £500,000 more. Another reason is that Salah doesn't rank high in my captaincy matrix for the next few game weeks, and I don't like owning premiums if I'm not going to captain them. Another reason is that I get 3 mil in the bank to spend next game week. That might be on Matoma, might upgrade him to someone like Odegaard, who looks like he's on penalties now. And lastly, I expect Rashford against Forest at home to outscore Salah against Newcastle away this game week. I understand that Rashford blanked in the first 2 game weeks, and a lot of people are selling him because of that, but that's a small sample size to refer to. If you look at the data from last season, we know he's a good player. His underlying stats have been promising this season. He's been expected to get an attacking return every other game, and I think that'll improve. Next up is his teammate Bruno, and the same applies to him, but even more so. He's been expected to get 2 attacking returns in the first 2 fixtures, and of course he's got none, but they will start coming for him. I'm not saying you have to buy any of these 2 players, but I definitely wouldn't go selling them when they face one of the worst defences in the league at Old Trafford. Next up is another 8.5 mil midfielder. It's Saka against Fulham at home. I know he looks like he's lost penalty duties to Odegaard, but I still think he's a good option. However, if I did get to choose again, I would go for Odegaard, and that's the reason why I went for Saka in the first place, that he looked like he was on penalty duties, but now it looks like Odegaard's going to continue taking them. I would rather have Odegaard. Completing the midfield are my 2 6.5 mil midfielders who are providing great value for money. It's Matoma against West Ham at home and Mbeumo against Palace at home. I thought it was impressive that they scored 12 points between them in the first game week, but this game week they've scored 28 points between the 2 of them. That's great value for money for just 13 mil. Like I mentioned with Estupinian, Brighton's fixtures are difficult after this game week, so I might sell Matoma. It's going to be more likely that I do sell Matoma because there's more midfield options when I've got 3 mil in the bank that I'd want to bring in. As for Estupinian, there's not much competition. I'm going to say the same about Mbeumo that I said about Chilwell. He's providing unbelievable value for money. Yeah, you've missed a couple of price rises, but I'd still bite the bullet and bring him in. I understand that a couple of his goals came from penalties, but the penalty advantage is there, and his underlying stats are still promising in open play. Up front, I'm going with Haaland captain against Sheffield United away. I think Rashford against Forest at home is the second best option, but I don't think it's close enough to make a best captain video. Lastly is Jackson against Luton at home, and you could argue that that's the easiest fixture of the season. He's another player that's underperformed his underlying stats, but his underlying stats are still promising. And don't forget, like I mentioned earlier, Chelsea have got favourable fixtures up until game week 8. This is the perfect time to jump on Chelsea players if you've not already got them. If you've made it to this point in the video, you've clearly found it informative. You might as well subscribe so you gain value from my future videos.